Okay, the first question I'd like to answer is from Selma Hassan. Selma Hassan is asking whether we can use the homework 5 part 1, the code, to do part 2. I use part 1 as a basis, but I need to make some modification to that code in order to do the part 2. So let me actually tell you that what's the difference between part 1 and part 2. So part 1 and part 2 is that part 2, we're taking 2 JSON into the program. So the thing is that I cannot just do 2 part 1 to do this, because each of the part 1 has a post, has certain thing. So what I did is the first thing I check is whether these 2 JSON, are they actually belong to the same post. If they belong to the same post, then the merge makes sense, okay? And then I'm actually going to check is what is the element in the, I'm assuming part 1, the first JSON is the base update, okay, which means it's the major one. The second JSON is just the update. So therefore, what's happening here is that I'm actually checking in the second. So I first using the part 1 to create all the object. I have my post object was created based on the part 1 code. So now I'm actually parsing part 2. I'm going to do pigeonholing again, but here the pigeonholing is going to be pigeonholing into my post JSON that created from the first JSON. Okay, so here's a tricky part. The tricky part is the following: if the pigeonholing is actually just one layer, means that I'm actually changing the 2 or changing the number of reaction, that might be easy. I just append the reaction into that. But the hardest part is about the reaction to comments. So maybe you have a new comment, that's fine. You can integrate that comment into that. But the thing is that the other thing which is tricky is that I'm actually like comments that already exist. So somebody already a comment, and now I've updated that this comment has multiple people, new people click like. So which means that I have to match both at the post level, whether the ID match, and also at the comment level, I have to match the comment ID, whether the new comment match the existing comments ID, or is the new comment. So that is the most difficult part, is that can you differentiate whether this is a new comment or it's not that hard, but just when you handle the JSON, you have to do that. Once you figure that out, the rest is easy. You just add that part, add whatever is a reaction or comment or comment, the reaction to a particular comment. You're just using the vector structure to add it in the pigeonholing process. So after you've done that, you actually have a C++ object which contain both JSON, and now you can just do dumpj at the post level. It will print out the JSON as the merge. So that's the part 2 you need to handle. Okay, so I am going to answer this. Let me actually go through each of the questions. Okay, so Jenny, I'm going to share my screen, just extend it from what we. So under the directory, there is a directory called homework 5. Okay, so this is a directory. Let me actually show it to everybody that if you haven't visited this directory, most of you already visited this directory. I think all of you visited this directory. I'm going to put it here. Okay, this directory, it has a few JSON, but one is the base input JSON, which is you already have it. But there was update 1 and update 2. So what I meant combine, I'm actually merge base JSON with update 1. That's one possibility. Or base JSON with update 2. Okay, so if you can handle these two cases, you're fine. Okay, just base update 1 and base update 2. And of course, you can actually do this, is that you first combine update 1 and base. Your code, if you work correctly, you should also do this. Base update 1 become a new JSON. And that new JSON, then you add update 2 together. Then you can actually combine all three together. Okay, so that's the file we're talking about. Okay, let me go back to the. Okay, any question regarding this before I answer the question from Hiroto Kobe regarding tag? For Eldo, the update 1, update 2, and also they're just for you to test your program. So your program should, when we actually grade you, we're going to test at least whether you integrate update 1 and JSON, sorry, the base update JSON correctly. And I'm also going to test update 2 and the base JSON correctly. So if you can do that, you're fine with in terms of grading. But I'm saying that if your program should be handle variety of cases as well. Okay. I'm thinking about giving you Caesar just very quickly. I'm thinking about 3 days. 3 days after the last day of final. So I mean, just to be fair, I want to be fair to everybody. I don't want you to feel a lot of pressure because this is unconventional. Think about this as collaborative. You think about my requirements, everybody have to be on those 10 posts, means that you need to collaborate with other people using the program. So it's unconditioned, is kind of not traditional final exam. But I think under the unique time of coronavirus, I feel this is experience for you to learn, to collaborate and to work together, just like the whole world is dealing with coronavirus right now. That's the spirit. Okay, so I said 3 days, because after the first the final the last final, because I don't want, I mean, I know some of us are actually only taking one final, but some of us taking like 4 or 5 finals during that week. So if we want to do this, I don't want to create too much disadvantage to those students who has other responsibility. So it's going to be, I checked the schedule. It's going to be I'm going to release it on Thursday or Friday. And then so you have the next 2 or 3 days for you to work on that. If you have any concern, let me know. Maybe I shouldn't do that because I just want to make sure I consider some of you might have a lot of final and then very stressful during that week. Okay, I'm talking about after the final week, but because for me to turn in the grade, I have until I think the following week Wednesday for me to turn in the grade. So if I finish the rest of the grading already, and then we just do that in the last few days, that's what I'm thinking. All right. Well, I'm trying to I might release it earlier, but I have to think about that, whether release earlier, because yeah, I might do that. I might release it earlier because it's collaborative. So that's why some of you might be able to develop. It won't kind of create competition. Okay. Okay. So well, collaborative. You can always ask questions to each other. That's fine. Okay, I mean, when we're doing programming assignment that we're using Piazza, we're helping each other. So you'll still be able to use Piazza to ask each other. But what I'm saying is that collaborative in also in a programming sense, not just helping people to deal with this problem. It's like, well, how do we actually figure out which VSID I'm going to contact? Because each one of us only know a small group of VSID to start with. It's like a social network. And how do we actually grow that so you will be able to involve? So essentially, there are certain people you just cannot directly communicate with each other. You have to leverage the other person. It's like a social network game, but we're not connecting as what we call a full smash. We're actually connecting in a graph. We have a small circle here, small circle there, and then we have some what we call weak link or weak tie that connect the cluster together among the class. And so it's interesting. We call that this world is called small world, a small world model, which is basically you have a lot of small group, but then you have a connection with each other. So my design of the final exam is for you to use your program with some modification to explore from the scratch such that other people will get involved. And we are each of the student and the instructor and the TA, by the way, TA, instructor, we're all involved in this graph, that we are one of the node from this graph. And then we're actually communicating with each other to make sure that, for example, we discuss a topic. That topic could be coronavirus. That topic could be how to handle homework assignment number 7. Okay, and that is what we like you to do for that. I haven't actually designed the whole thing. I'm still, to be honest, still trying to test homework assignment number 6. So after that, I'm going to get that ready to you. Okay. No, I won't curve. Just to let you know, I saw somebody put that as a class curve. No, I won't curve. I mean, I have been a professor since 1994, and I have never curved even once in my career. And I have a reason to do that because my first mentor, which teach me about instruction, he exercised, he basically convinced me it's important to do collaborative teaching. Collaborative learning means the student learning from each other. For engineering, computer science, there are certain subjects we need to do this kind of collaborative learning. And in collaborative learning, curving is hurting the collaborative spirit. So that's why in my career, I never curve. I have never curved any single class. So I won't do that for this one as well, okay? I mean, this is not appropriate for all the classes, but for a class like a programming, you're going to do collaboration a lot in the future in your career. So why do we emphasize that, okay? So I won't curve. I will just look at what you got individually, okay? So don't worry, there is no competition among yourself. You just need to compete with your own effort there, okay? Okay, so let me go up. I must miss some question. I'm sorry that there was a question from, okay, this is from Hiroto Kobe regarding the tag. So I'm going to explain a little bit about the tag. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I'm going to do, oh, I was there actually. part 1. Okay, so in the program, there is something called tag.h, right? There is a tag. First, let me just go over this very quickly. I think you're familiar with this. So tag, in my definition, you should have this already. It has a few things. A tag is try to tag either as a person or as a comments. Okay, that's the only thing we're handling right now. So tag means that when you write something, you say, oh, when I say use this term Felix, I'm really referring to this particular user Felix. And when I say this was discussed in the other comment, then I really want to give that comment as a tag. So that's the tagging. So in the design of my tag to handle the 3 JSON I sent to you, that I have this, I call it text index, which I will explain to you what is the index. But in terms of tag itself, this two represent a person, right? Avatar name and VSID, that's the name. And then we have a comment, which is a comment ID. So the type of this is a string. So this comment is actually really an ID, identity to a particular comment. Okay, so let's look at the JSON, which is update 1. Okay, of course, update 1 is kind of too much. So I'm actually going to use my toStyle string to do that. Okay, apparently I haven't compiled here, so I'm going to use /ECS 36B. Wait a minute. Okay, so I'm using my style string. I hope you can see this, and I'm going to roll down a little bit to show you the tag part. Okay, here is a screen that I hope you can see this. There is a comment. The comment says Peter #1 #. I told you switch to switching to Comcast #2 #. Okay, this one is actually referring to the notation of a tag. So it means that Peter is tag index number 1, which is to Comcast, is actually referring to another tag, which is tag number 2. So the text index is referred to this small number here. But for this homework assignment, you don't need to parse this out. You don't need to parse this out because I already have this here, index 1 and 2. You can see that this message have a 1 reaction, but this part is the tag. If you look at the tag, just like a reaction or any other thing, is an array. Just like you can have multiple reaction, you can have multiple tags. And the tag in this particular situation is a Facebook convention for the JSON array, has data and it has count. And the count has 2, means that you have a 2 element, means two tags. And the first tag is essentially this part, which is Peter, which I said, who is Peter? This Peter is avatar name Peter with VSID, this one. And the index is 1, which is matching this one. So this one is actually matching this index 1. So when we compile this information, if you look at the message, you know that this is the information related to tag. So this is going to be the first tag object. Okay, here is an array of 2 tags object, right? This is the first tag object. Okay, if you look at the code, just very quickly. If you look at the code, that now you have an index. The index is there, and the avatar name is Peter, and VSID is Peter's VSID, and the comment, this one is going to be Neil. It doesn't have anything. It doesn't. It's not a referring to the comment. So the first tag object, it really have 3 things, but one field is Neil. Okay. All right. That's the first one. So now let's look at the second object. The second object, this part, it has indexes 2, so it still have an index. This is referring to this index 2 here. And it doesn't have avatar name, doesn't have a VSID, but it has a comment field. The comment field, you can see, okay, sorry. The comment field have 3 number. Have a 3 number because this is the profile ID. The second one is a post ID. The third one is comment ID. This is related to the definition of comments.h, that each comment has 3 ID, which is a profile ID, post ID, and comment ID. They separate by an underscore. That's also a Facebook convention for post, profile, and the comment. Okay. All right. So so over here you can see that it only have a comment ID, which is this part. And by the way, this comment ID, if you actually search for this, let me actually search for this. Just search partially, it should give me the, so you can see that it actually occurred in the update, in the update 1 JSON. Oh, it doesn't appear in another one. So this is actually a new comment. By the way, this is a new comment. Oh, I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, this referred to another comment, but you don't need to worry about creating another comment. You just need to put that object just like this one. Okay, so now we're looking at this part. This one only have a comment ID. By the way, I just realized you don't need to do anything. You just need to take this as a string. You don't need to even separate this out to find the right comment. That's not the purpose of this part, at least for now. You don't need to worry about that for this quarter, okay? But this could be used to refer to a particular comment object somewhere in your system, okay? But here is ID and here is index 2. So you only have a 2. So now we look at the tag. The tag now, you still use the same design. But in this case, the index is going to be 2, but avatar name is going to be null. For the second tag object, there is no avatar name. And then the VSID is going to be null. You only have a comment ID over here. Okay, so even though the tag.h define multiple attribute, because tag really is a useful thing. You can tag a lot of things you want when you develop a piece of content. And you don't need to use all the fields for every tag, but you can use a tag to represent different parts of information. By the way, a really sophisticated design will make this tag to be a more of a base class. And then you can actually derive from this class to have, say, a person's tag or a comments tag. So you can develop a more derived object in that sense, okay? So that's the meaning of tag and how you should handle that. Okay, any question regarding this part? Okay, I'm going to share the screen. Let me check. I think I handle Hirotokobi's question. Okay. Yes, its comment is a string, and you can actually make any. I mean, it's a string object. You can make any object to be a null. I think in C++, I forgot is not necessary. I think it's nil or null. Let me actually check one thing. Let me check one thing. Oh, sorry. Let me check one thing, and then I'll get back to you guys. That's very interesting. Okay, I'm going to share my screen very quickly. Just tell you that this is usually I handle this. When I want to detect, so by default, when you create an object, that everything is a null. So if you didn't put anything in there, then I use the function called isNull. I use a function isNull to check whether that particular value is there or not. Okay, and that's how we. Oh, sorry, that was actually for the JSON. When I handle JSON value, I use isNull. I think there is a similar function you can test whether your that particular field has any value. Okay. Okay. All right. Any question? Let me stop the recording. Okay.